Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stuck in the Catch Fence. This is going to be a little bit of a different show because it is Speed Weeks. Daytona 500 is in front of us, and the NASCAR season has arrived. My name is Ryan Peters. I will be your host today for this short video as we discuss the Daytona preview. I'm joined by Joe Spillman. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. I can't wait for this weekend.
I see you got a few cars there, Joe, in your background that have made their way into the catch fence at the Daytona 500.
Yeah, except that one. I don't think that's Daytona, but go ahead.
Nonetheless, don't let people fact check us on our pictures.
No more fact checking tonight.
And we're joined by Steve Risley, where Rubbin's Racing is the moniker above his head, and probably we're going to have a little bit more than just some rubbing when it comes down to Sunday evening.
Steve, how are you? It's Daytona, isn't it? There's always rubbing at Daytona, but man, does anybody else feel like November was eons ago?
Yeah.
I'm ready for Speed Weeks to start here this week and get going and get these cars back on the track. Ryan, I think we all heard it. Daytona is officially a sellout now. Indianapolis, well, they don't ever really count attendance allegedly, although I think they know how many tickets they sell. But yeah, let's get it going, baby. It's time to unhaul these cars and get them on the track.
Well, you got the appetizer out in California for some NASCAR racing, so the rest of the country is now ready to fully embrace it. So what is on the schedule for this week? Well, tonight we're going to have Daytona qualifying, and then tomorrow will be the duels. And on Thursday, we will record a show that we will release on Friday explaining what happened in the duels and also where, the lineup set and if we have any news by then. On Friday night, the truck race, Saturday, the Xfinity race, and then Sunday will be obviously America's race, the Daytona 500. And we will be with you for a few videos this week. Again, we'll be with you on Thursday, or record Thursday, and then be with you on Friday. And then Sunday, guys, we will be live later that evening. We'll put out a post whenever we plan on going live discussing the Daytona 500. And cross your fingers, only a 2% chance of rain. I've never seen 2%, but only a 2% chance of rain. So hopefully we actually get it in before Steve actually gets to see darkness out in California, which it's happened before. I believe that Ryan Newman wreck was about 10 o'clock at night after a rain delay. Mm-hmm. But let's go ahead and jump right in. We got three topics tonight. Well, three really questions that we're going to talk about here in just a second. And the first one is, what are your expectations for the Daytona 500? If this is the first time somebody's watched the Daytona 500, all of us may have a different opinion, but Joe, I will start with you. What are your expectations when it comes to the Daytona 500?
I mean, the Daytona 500 has expectations in and of itself, Ryan, because, there's nothing quite like this. I mean, even when you think about super speedways, Talladega really doesn't compare to this high banking, the incredible wrecks that have the potential that you're going to see. My expectations are what they are every year, to see a very exciting race, and hope my drivers are able to stay out of the big ones. You always have a couple of those. So those are my expectations. If somebody's new to racing and you build your expectations on what you're going to see this weekend, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure a little bit, because the Daytona 500 is one of the most, if not the most exciting race of the season. Ryan?
Steve, you've been through a few Daytona 500s now. What are you expecting now as being a seasoned veteran of the motorsport?
Well, Ryan, for the new people that might be, picking us up for the first time, don't let yourself get lulled to sleep, because we know how this race can be. It can be 170 laps of follow the leader, and then the big one happens. And if you decide to go get a beverage of choice or a chicken wing or something, and you might miss the big one. So you got to stay at the edge of your seat. I'm looking forward to it. With Rubbin' is Racing as my moniker up above there. I'm waiting for the big one to happen. And as usual, I think you can, as well as 50%, I know there's some favorites out there, and I'll let you talk about who the favorites are later on or whenever you want to. But, this is the race where one of my bottom 30 can pull this off and win this. And I can wreck your season on the first race of the year.
Yeah,
that you have to put up with JJ Yaley.
You're not wrong.
Cody Ware in the playoffs right off the get-go.
No, not Cody Ware.
So I'm expecting the big one, and I'm expecting another tight, close bumper finish by an unknown driver. As much as I want my boy, the 9 car, to win it.
Well, the thing that I am expecting is, you mentioned, I think back in the day we had a little bit of tandem racing and that made it a little bit more boring. But I think last year we got to see that the super speedway races were actually really exciting. It was back to the pack racing that, we all love and enjoy. And, that's what makes the Daytona 500, Talladega, whatever it may be, exciting. But it's interesting because it seems like some years, you'll see people block 10 laps in. And then you others see people try to fill themselves out and, and let the race come to them. And I'm not really sure what exactly we'll see. Are people going to be anxious behind the wheel? I know everybody has a new nose now. So are we going to see more aggressive pushing? And if so, if more times that a driver is aggressive, then, that's simply going to set up more wrecks. But I mean, the biggest thing that I'm expecting to see is probably Kyle Busch wreck whenever he's in the top 5. And then I throw something and then I get really upset and I try to spend the next 2 hours trying to calm down as we'll have a show that night, because that's typically how all Daytona 500s end. And then, like Steve said, you'll see some guy you've never heard of, whether it be Trevor Bayne, whether it be Michael McDowell, people that aren't familiar with the sport, somehow find their way at the end of the race pushing to get a Daytona 500 trophy. So that is my expectations. But
Ryan, I think you can feel safe about Kyle this year because he's driving a Chevy, and God loves Chevrolets.
Oh man, Steve, the kiss.
God loves Chevrolet. The kiss of death. Is that KOD
right
there?
God loves Chevrolets.
There's a short, Joe. Whenever he's flying through the air on Sunday, there's a short of Steve going, God loves Chevrolets.
Yeah, there goes Kyle Busch.
He's in a Chevrolet.
Yeah. He just broke his other foot again.
Oh, no, don't say that.
Well, I watched Rowdy last night. So.
Yeah, that worked out well for him the year he broke his foot anyways.
Yeah.
All right, break your foot, Kyle. Let's go.
Well, Steve, I'll go to you. Obviously, we know what expectations you have, but really, what excites you the most when it comes to the Daytona 500?
The start of the season. It's so exciting to know that every Sunday, the last 4 Sundays, I think there's 4 breaks throughout the season where they don't race. And to know that every Sunday I'm going to be able to plop my butt down in front of the TV at some point in the day, or either a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon, and watch the cars race. I like the fact that we have even a broader diversity of tracks this year, starting with the Coliseum. They just ran out a 1/4-mile track, adding another road course, which puts a different kind of melee in the mix, and just a greater spice of variety and a race every Sunday. And the season started. That's what excites me.
Joe, how about you? What excites you most about the Daytona 500?
Yeah, I mean, Steve said it all. It's it's the start of the NASCAR season, and if you're NASCAR fans like us, it doesn't get much better than this. But it also has, that historical value, because there's nothing more American than watching stock cars drive in a circle around a super speedway. They've been going there for, close to a century now. And, the stock car racing is American made, and it's American made as it gets. And, nothing screams America like the Daytona 500.
Joe,
yeah, this is actually the 75th season. So,
Joe, this is the 75th anniversary of NASCAR. So it would be the 75th year of them going
close to a century. 25 years. Like if you're 75 and you look at a 25-year-old, you're going to be like, hey, I'm almost 100. You're barely 25.
So me being 64, I'm close to a century.
Yeah. You're over the hump, Steve.
All right. Go ahead, Ryan. What excites you?
The thing that excites me the most, guys, is literally there's competitive racing every single night, starting Wednesday to Sunday. You don't get to say that the rest of the year.
Good
and
point.
I think that's like my favorite part is on Wednesday, I don't get prime time qualifying that I just sit down and watch. I do that for the Daytona 500. I don't get a mini race on a Thursday. I get that with the Daytona 500. And then obviously we have the truck race, the Xfinity race. And sometimes, guys, those are even more exciting than what happens on Sunday, because those guys, why we wait to see who has patience on Sunday's race, there will be no patience on Friday night's race and Saturday's race. It's just everybody competing for themselves, guys making the very first starts, screwing up and everything else. And, I love the fact that we get to see racing every single night, starting from Wednesday all the way to Sunday, meaningful racing at that, not talking about a 20-minute practice. But now I think might be the hardest question. And then Joe, I'll start this with you.
Ryan, I thought for sure you'd say what excites you is Chevrolets. So, but I guess I was wrong.
No, that kiss of death, you're starting to French kiss of death now. You keep it going.
Jeez. You're going to mess around,
All
Steve,
right.
and all our drivers are going to get caught up in the big one.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
they
guys are
will.
Chevy
Trust
fans
me.
too.
They will.
True. But again, the last thing I'm going to ask, and this is probably the toughest because, this is hard to pick one thing out. But what is your guys's, and I'll start with you, Joe, your favorite Daytona 500 memory?
That one's easy for me. And that is the finish of the 1998 Daytona 500. When Dale Earnhardt got his first Daytona 500 win. And I'd never, I was a young man at the time, and I was a teenager at the time, and I'd been watching NASCAR my whole life. Obviously, my dad was a NASCAR fan, brought up watching it, and I've never seen a driver up until that point win a race, and every crew member on every team lined up to give him a high five as he was going to victory lane. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
Steve, what is your all-time favorite?
I picked two because my number one was Dale Earnhardt winning. I think it's an iconic measure of how much that man meant to the sport. And while we can talk about Richard Petty being the king, Dale Earnhardt was the Ironhead. I mean, he was what embodied NASCAR. So that was my original number one. But I'm going to jump to 1B, and that's the 1979 Daytona 500. That as you guys are too young to know, probably
the blizzard?
remember the blizzard. Everything shut down on the eastern coast. The only thing, and it was pouring down rain in Daytona, and they had to get the track dry. And it was the first live wire-to-wire coverage of a NASCAR race. It was not usually on Wild World Sports where they would show the snippets of it. This was going to be bumper to bumper or start to, green to checkered coverage, and it got rained out. And they had a time window. It wasn't like today where they would bump it. The network said, you get this race in by this time or you don't run it. And lo and behold, they got it in, and it ended with What's Above My Head, Rubbing is Racing. It ended with the Hatfields and McCoys, i.e. the Yarboroughs and the Allisons, duking it out as Richard Petty drives through. And how apropos that Richard Petty, the king, wins the first nationally televised Daytona 500. And here you got just two guys beating each other with helmets, kicking each other, grabbing feet and legs and pulling them down. And then the brothers stop their cars. And it's a family. It's an all-out Hatfields and McCoys family feud. So 1979 is what embodies NASCAR as I love the sport, and probably the first time I really remember watching NASCAR start to finish or being as excited about watching the next race as I was after the 79 500.
Great story, Steve.
And for people that are not aware of that really put NASCAR on the map. I mean, that was, again, like Steve said, it was a weather condition where the Ohio River was frozen from where we are. And it was a blizzard that the nation had not seen in a number of years. There was nothing to do. Obviously, nobody had cell phones. So the only thing you could do was turn on one of maybe four channels if you were lucky. And the fact that there was these guys turning left at 175 miles an hour. And like you said, it came down to Cale Yarborough and I believe it was Bobby Allison were racing, bumping, and hitting each other. They end up wrecking. Richard Petty comes across. So then not only do they wreck at the bottom as the guy goes around and gets first place, the cameras are just stuck on the fact that there's two rednecks over there beating the hell out of each other. And then Donnie Allison goes, that's my brother beating the hell out of somebody, so I'm going to help him beat the hell out of that guy too.
That's good
So
stuff.
Donnie and Leroy stop their cars and jump in the melee. And I don't think they ever even showed Richard Petty in Victory Lane
No,
because
no.
they were just focused on the fight going on. And like you said, that inevitably just put NASCAR right on the map and made it the sport that it is, and made me put Rubbin' Is Racing above my head and my moniker for what I think of NASCAR. So yeah, good stories, guys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it really, a lot of people, after being forced to watch something they may not have watched, end up falling in love with that sport. So I mean, that's a great one, Steve. Mine is actually
Ryan, one point before you start, one thing I will say, what that in '98 did is where you go on. It told you that out of NASCAR you can get heroes. Richard Petty became a hero. Dale Earnhardt became a hero. Later on, Jeff Gordon becomes a hero. And you've got new heroes emerging now, whether it's a Kyle Busch or it's a younger driver coming in, Kyle Larson or a Chase Elliott. But this is a sport chock full of heroes, and heroes with legacies, and heroes that transcend generationally. And I think that's what makes NASCAR so dadgum fun, to get involved in more than just watching the race.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
No, you're good. No, that's a great point. And, the reason why the Daytona 500 is obviously so special too is the reason 1998 was huge because Earnhardt had done so much on restrictor plates except for the 500. My driver, Kyle Busch, has won everything there is to win almost on every single track except for the 500. He's won at Daytona, but he's never won the 500. And, and it's like that last piece that people are trying to get, just like Dale Earnhardt was. He had all the championships, but he never had the Daytona 500. But I don't know if it's my most memorable memory, and it's not a good one for the person I'm about to talk about. And it's not in a way that's really, really bad, but it's Sterling Marlin getting out of his car during a black flag trying to adjust his car while he's in first place, just tugging on the front of the fender, and ends up losing. He gets black flagged, of course, because you're not allowed to get out of your car and make any adjustments. He's on the backstretch at that. It's not like he's in pit road. And he says, "Oh, there's a black flag. Well, hell, I'll just go up here and pull that fender out and give me some more arrow right there. There we go. That's all right." And then dominating the race. And then they're like, there was only there wasn't many laps to go. And he goes to the tail end of the field. And I'll never forget that in my entire life, because I said, what the hell is he doing? I've never seen a driver out of his car during a black flag, let alone just go and start working on his car.
Well, he claimed he was trying to pull the rub off his tire.
Yeah.
He claimed that the defender was rubbing on his tire. We know how important aero is at Daytona.
Do you think that was more egregious than Scotch tape?
That was exactly where I was going, Joe. I bet rubbing the tire had more to do with what could happen to that car than possibly Scotch tape at Pocono. But I guess, Joe, don't. That wound was already sealed. The scar was starting to heal, and there you go. You opened it up and poured salt right in. So,
I'll tell you what, though, you
exactly
make two.
What I thought too.
You make two good points, though. I mean, with Sterling Marlin jumping out of the car. And what has that been? That's been 20 years ago now.
Oh God. Yeah, I'll look it up, Joe.
But yeah, just in
2003.
Yeah, so 20 years ago. The drivers still had the ability to get out of their car and get back in and strap themselves in for a race. So just in that time span, how much the sport's evolved. You couldn't get out of your car now and adjust that if you wanted to. 2
points there, Joe. First off, how smart is Sterling Marlin when his dad's name's Cuckoo? All right. And secondly, Ryan, the thing you need to be happy about is they didn't need to Scotch tape the Chevrolets. They were fine. It was a Toyota
Dodge,
that went out Scotch taped.
That was a Dodge.
Not a Chevrolet.
He was fixing the Dodge. Okay.
Chevrolets, no, I'm talking about Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin in the Scotch tape situation. Those were Toyotas. The Chevrolets were all fine.
Jeez.
I guess since he got third place, And
Your
the first
boy
two
is
gets
driving a Chevrolet. You're
Yeah,
not.
I don't want to talk about Pocono. Damn it! I'm done. I'm over it. It's gone. It's in the past. I'm tired of this stupid Scotch tape.
yeah.
Told myself I wouldn't get upset, and here we are. So, what I would like you to do, though, for the listeners, if you're still tuned in after me screaming, is please, number one, like and subscribe. That's always free, and it takes 2 clicks. That's it. And we would like you to comment what your favorite Daytona 500 race memory is, or obviously what you're expecting, or who could possibly win. Whatever you'd like to comment, we make sure that we go ahead and reach and answer every single person, or at least communicate and get with you on your comments, because we want this to be a community, and we sure as heck enjoy people engaging with us, and we try to do the same as well. Well, gentlemen,
Ryan, I think my favorite moment is yet to come. I think it's happening this year, and it's going to involve Cody Ware.
Ooh, another bold
Oh,
prediction
man.
out of Steve Risley.
I think Cody's going to come out of nowhere and capture the Harley J. Earl Trophy.
Cody Ware is not making the minimum speed after 20 laps. He's gone.
He's a park and ride.
My favorite car is going to be whatever drug medication brings my heart rate and blood pressure down. I'm like, oh yeah, Bradley's like, better go take some of them.
Yeah.
Steve's going to give me a stroke. Well, guys, we got a busy week ahead of us. We're going to have all kinds of content here on Stuck in the Catch Fence. We cannot wait to bring it to you. We're going to have our first live show, and that will be after the race on Sunday. So be sure to check for that. Joe and I will be putting out some betting tips and some FanDuel lineups. So if you're into that type of thing, like Joe and I are when it comes to losing money, we're going to try to help you win some. We already did once.
Yeah.
You should be on house money if you're working with us right now. So we're going to do that. That's right. So,
I don't know.
And then
see, I can't be like you guys. I'm fixing to spend $2,200 on a new puppy, so I can't gamble.
No, I cannot do that as well. And then we'll also break down what we use for our point system, so you can also play along with us. That will be on Thursday, as we will know who the starting lineup will be, and then we will make our points and break down to you guys how we do that as well, so you guys can stick in as that. It came down really to the final between you two here collectively between us. So,
Hey, Ryan, can you give him just a little taste with you guys' gambling? Who are the 3 favorites right now to bring home the trophy?
It might change. It depends on.
Yeah,
I know, but right now,
gotta watch the duels, Steve. Gotta watch the duels.
Well, Steve, you tell us who are the 3 favorites?
It's at odds at 1,200. I don't know how that works, but I got 1,200s by their name. It's the 12 car, the 11 car,
Brian Blaney, Denny Hamlin,
and the 9 car. Now I go by cars. As we go through the season, you'll hear me talk car numbers rather than drivers' names. So the 9 car belongs to
drivers.
The 9 car belongs to Chase Elliott. The 11 car belongs to Denny Hamlin, and the 12 car belongs to Ryan Blaney. Those are the 3 numbers, and I believe. What do we have? A Ford Chevy and a Toyota.
Yeah, and those
Hamlin might have the best patent scheme.
Our old friend Mike Goodpasture would say that makes the Daytona 500 rigged.
No, what I will say is, Steve, by the time the race happens, you'll be looking you'll be looking at the favorite with like plus 600 odds. But
it's a facetious number. Yeah. Exactly.
We will explain all that on Friday.
Well, all good things must come to an end, just like our friend Kentucky Motor Speedway. This show is also coming to the checkers. Thanks for joining in. This has been Stuck in the Catch Fence.